Big resume, has coached some of the best players in the game, 5 number ones, Venus and Serena Williams, for those that saw the movie King Richard. Throw in Andy Roddick, throw in a young Jennifer Capriati and what she went on to in her career, Maria Sharapova. He's a 7-time US Professional Tennis Association National Coach of the Year, inducted into the USPTA Florida Hall of Fame. When we think of the great coaching names and the impact on the sport, we think of this man, Rick Macci, who's joined us from Florida. He's got up nice and early on a Monday morning for us. Rick, it's an absolute honour to have you on the program.
No, I'm glad to be here. When you said I got up early, you ready for this? I got up every day at 3 o'clock for the last 25 years. So, no, I'm ready to roll, and I'm glad to be with you.
So what's your pattern? I'm intrigued now. You say 3 a.m. What's sort of the routine, Rick, when you get up at 3?
No, I get up, eat breakfast, run a half mile. I have an office at home, and then I come to the park where it's Rick Macci Tennis Center, and I open up the park at 68. I'm a park ranger. I can put that on my resume. So I open up the park, and then sometimes I start teaching at 5:30. So ready to go.
Anyone could excuse you for just having a more low-key life, putting the feet up, retiring. You sound like you've still got the energy that you had maybe 30 years ago in your absolute peak, coaching some of these big names, that you absolutely still love and have got the bug for coaching and developing people.
Yeah, listen, I feel the same way as when I started. I still teach 50 hours a week, 7 days a week. The park here, this is like Disneyland and Candyland. We have like 70-some tournaments, and, I just teach anybody, anytime, anywhere, and still work a lot of people on the tour. And but I just like helping who's ever on the other side of that net. And as long as you have the passion, it's not like you're working, you're hardly working.
I was going to ask Rick, what are the key attributes to being a good coach? What do you think is the most important thing for a coach at any level?
Well, number one, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So I think anybody that's listening should remember that one. So, every day I just try to get better. Even at this stage of the game, I have a lot of stuff going on, and, but you always got to try to get better. The game is changing. You could see 15 years ago, myself and Dr. Brian Gordon were way ahead of the curve of kind of, stroke mechanics and a lot of biomechanical stuff. So that'd be number one. Number two, you got to have the passion. If you love it, your students are going to feel that. And that's really how you extract greatness out of other people, and when you can do that, you're more of a life coach and a role model, or a father figure to a lot of people that you coach. And you can't read a book, it's not like that. And then knowing how to say it, when to say it, why to say it, who to say it to. There's the whole medley of things that go into coaching. It's not just like teach people how you were taught, but the main thing is you got to try to get better every day. You don't look back, you look forward. I think that's one of the most important things.
You've worked with greatness, and you've coached greatness. Have you learned from the players you've coached as much as you've passed on your messages and your wisdom?
Absolutely. First off, another great question. Back in the early '90s when I had Roddick, he was one of the first of the Mohicans with the ATP forehand. He kept it on the hitting side, and it looked a little risky. But when I started looking at this guy, the racket was faster and shorter, and that's when it really, changed the way I look at it. So a lot of times the players teach the coaches, and the coaches need to understand that. You can learn from everybody. But no, yeah, listen, every time you go on that tennis court, you can learn from your students because everybody's different. They're wired different. They have different upbringings, and that's the art of coaching and dealing with the parents. I train the kids and the parents, and I'm sure a lot of people that saw the movie King Richard, I should be in the Hall of Fame for just putting up with Richard, but no, he was my best friend, and Serena and Venus were like my own daughters, and as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, it's funny, Rick. We played the grab at the start of our show about half an hour ago of John Bernthal, who played you in the movie when you were sitting there with the entire Williams family in Compton, and you put your terms and conditions on the table, and then the Williams family came back with their terms and said, well, yeah, there's Venus and Serena, but you've got to take all of us with you. We need a motorhome to get down to Florida. We need this, that, and everything else. But do you think the movie depicted it really well, the true events all those years ago?
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure. I talked to Bernthal a lot. They saw video and, read my book. And I wasn't really sure exactly how it was going to come out, but it blew me away. It was almost spot on, the walk, the talk, the nuances, the subtleties. I mean, Will Smith was just like Richard. Now, Bernthal, he had a much bushier mustache than I did. I had a little piece of AstroTurf back in the day that took me like 20 years just to grow that thing. But no, it showed how much I cared. And I think the biggest thing that, hundreds of millions of people now know, I took a huge risk. It's one thing to believe in someone. It's one thing to put, hundreds of thousands or millions into something. I could have been wrong. They could have got hurt. And I just saw something under the hood. There was like a rage, a burning desire. So that's what I liked about the movie. It showed how much I cared. I was all in. Like I said, Richard became my best friend. The girls were like my daughter, and I was just on a mission, and we were going to make this happen.
Were you able to sit back last September and watch Serena in that last stand at the US Open, the first round, the second round, and the third round where she was beaten by a player, an Australian, but who had spent a lot of time in Florida? But were you able to sit back and marvel and think, it's 30-odd years since our journey began, and here she is still going?
Yeah, no, listen, I met up with Venus and Serena at the after party, at the red carpet. And listen, they're both just so special in so many different ways. And, would I have thought she'd be playing that long? No. Did I know that she would be amazing? Absolutely. Simply because, and this is what people don't understand. And, I'm back on video way back in the day saying she has all the time in the world. And she kind of knows where you're going to hit it before you do. Those are a couple qualities I don't really see in a lot of people. Then you throw in the size, the speed, the strength. That's why she went down as the greatest player ever, and she just had that Compton street fight. But no, her journey's amazing, but I'll take it even further. I think her best is yet to come. Now she has the brand. Now she has the platform. I think she's going to inspire even more people around the world in so many different ways. If I can do it, you can do it. Look where I came from, Compton.
Yeah.
She wasn't even in the front row or the back row. She wasn't even in the building, So her story, both girls, the whole story is amazing. But I think Serena's best is yet to come, and no one's more proud of her than Rick Macci.
So, Rick, would you say, now I love how they use the term sort of, particularly Serena, evolving away from the game, and she leaves us in a little bit of, mystery. That is there one little door that might open up? I think she's back, she's been back hitting some balls, and you don't lose those competitive juices, but could you see her reappearing at all?
Absolutely. I've been asked that a lot, and I think I don't have any insight, but I might have a better feel than the rest of the world. I think her and VW will play doubles, must-see TV. And here's what's crazy. They can win any tournament. I mean, they could still have a good mixed doubles partner and win on the tour. That's how good they are. Singles, as you guys know, that's a little rough sledding, so that could be a little more difficult. But I don't think we've heard the last.
Okay.
And, for her to play doubles with Venus, who knows? It might happen at the U.S. Open, and that's when Venus, she might retire. Who knows? But they can still play and be very competitive. And I know just how she's wired. It's hard to let go, especially when you know that you can still go out there and be competitive. So I think the door is open, but I think it would be more in doubles.
We talked about you being at the forefront, I suppose, of the biomechanics and different movements sort of 20 years ago in terms of technical changes of strokes, etc. Where do you think tennis goes now? Can you see tennis moving in a different direction, or are we seeing what we've got at the moment in Madrid with Alcaraz as an all-court player, with Swiatek doing marvellous things with her ground strokes and forehand in particular? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, like all sports, it's quicker, it's faster. It's like advanced pinball on steroids. Athleticism's a premium, movement's a premium, but the leader in the clubhouse is stroke mechanics. If any coach or teacher is still teaching the way they were taught, it's really not correct. The game, the strokes are shorter, they're more compact. So I think the stroke mechanics, everybody has to evolve in that area. As far as the game goes, whether they change the ball or they change the rules, I mean, it's hard to say because the game is just so much faster and the serves become like supersonic, especially on the men's side. Now that being said, even 3 years ago when I was talking about Alcaraz, I predicted he would change the way even people teach the game. Now you think about it, it's okay to miss a drop shot. I think more coaches are saying, whoa, because when you're the leader in the clubhouse, it's a copycat situation. And now that he's there, okay, and he does that. And what he does that with conviction and passion. And I think anybody listening to this, that didn't start 2 years ago. That starts when you're 7, 8, 9, when you're still in the incubator, and you don't want to discourage people from trying things because it's junior development, not junior final destination. And so you can see how that's baked in extra crispy, the drop shot, plus a lot of adventurous things that he does. Now, that being said, he has the movement like we've never seen in this sport. Once he goes, there's an extra turbo. So that's a whole different thing. He's checked every box and more, barring injury. I think the sky's the limit. So, and other pros are going to add more to their game to keep up with him just because he's doing things that we really haven't seen in the game of tennis. So where this goes from here, I just think you're going to see more versatility, more chips, more change in the pace, more drop shots, just like the great Ash Barty, the Australian, did. And I have a little Ukrainian girl right now who's 11, got her out of Ukraine, and I really think this girl can be number one in the world someday. So I think versatility and more variety is going to come into the game as this moves forward.
What's the name of the young Ukrainian player, Rick?
Sofia Balinska.
Okay.
All right. She's quick. She's fast. And it's an amazing story. It's on YouTube.
Nice.
And, she's all in, and they've moved here. And the thing I love about this, I'm not only, changing strokes, but I'm changing some little girl's life.
Absolutely. You're more than a tennis coach. You've been a life coach in a lot of ways. We've got time for one more. I'm intrigued. Can you explain the story of how Maria Sharapova was almost a left-handed player? I'm not sure how many people would know about this.
First off, how bizarre is that? And listen, when they this was after Venus and Serena were gone, Yuri brought Maria to me, and we were working, and the thing that people have to understand, this little girl was in a bubble. And I can sit here, and I've had Venus, Serena, Capriati, Roddick, Messina, Pierce. I could go on and on with everybody I've worked for. Mentally, I'm telling you guys, mentally, this was the most unique player I've ever coached because she was already in a bubble. Even though she wasn't the best 11-year-old at the academy at the time, She had the ability to forget, and she'd be right there. And so when you already have that check, that doesn't mean you're going to be a great player, okay? But that means something. And you could kind of see when she got on the tour, she was always there every point. And she never really had a lot of bad losses. So when I saw that mental box was checked, I said, hey, this little girl's in a bubble, and if I can get her to stay near the baseline, take the ball early, blah, 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 she could be number one in the world someday. And I said that at 11. So the lefty thing was crazy because her forehand was all discombobulated. The elbow came in. She had side spin, and it wasn't correct no matter how we tried to change it. Then I had her hit left-handed. And it was poetry in motion, a knife through butter. And I told Yuri, I said, listen, we should have a discussion. So for 1 month at 11, she played all left-handed. Now, the serve took a little bit longer to take. The forehand was amazing. Mm-hmm. And we both liked, Yuri and I, the father, the versatility of having a lefty serve. So all that being said, we did this for like 1 month. Her backhand wasn't, amazing,
Yep.
but it was better than her righty forehand. And we were all in with doing this. And at the time, she was at IMG Academy, and they would come down a week and train with me for like a whole year. Then after about a month, they really didn't want her to change to lefty. And so they convinced the father to go back to righty. But listen, that's a true story. It's in my book. There's video on this. But her left-handed forehand was amazing. Hey, I think in the end, Maria was right. No pun intended.
No, exactly. Very nicely said to close. Rick, we could simply talk to you for 24 hours. There are that many stories. But we'll do this again, I reckon, sometime down the track. A pleasure to have you on the program. A lifetime in tennis. You're still living and breathing it, and you might just be unearthing some more superstars of the future. So I really appreciate you getting up early. Well, no, it's late for you because you're up at 3 a.m. So I really appreciate your time, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. I enjoyed it, and best of luck to everybody.
Rick Macci. Everyone in tennis would have heard of the name Rick Macci. And, of course, John Bernthal played Rick Macci in King Richard. Bit of airtime there with the Williams sisters going down to Florida, and Richard just sort of handballing them over to a man who's got an impressive track record.